And we're live with a new person. Jonathan might be typing away. So here is Blake Silvertooth. And she has her own YouTube channel. And Enneagram 4 Resembler. 4 wing 5 or 4 wing 3?
4 wing 3.
Ooh. ENFP preferences. We have Bradley here. Logical, intuitive, introvert. TINX. Strategic, accommodator. In Kersey and Socionics. Jonathan here. INFJ, IAI, Enneagram 5. Enneagram 1, 5. Is it 152?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you not know that? I've been doing these videos for years. You should know my type inside out.
Well, perhaps because
even
you're
I know
so balanced in your stacking. Perhaps because you are so balanced in your stacking, it's hard to remember which sequence it is in. So hence I said 5 by mistake, because your 5 is so strong. Right, then we have Laura, Enneagram 6, INTP and MBTI, LII and Socionica. We have Sanna here, INFJ in, well, actually, we won't go into that. II in Socionics. And myself, Enneagram 7 or Disintegrated 5. And we're going to compare 4 and the 6 levels of development. Over to the Enneagram man, Jonathan.
Okay, so we'll start this off simple. I will try and screen share, but it's not working. My screen share is not working, so that will be very difficult.
You could send the images to me, and then I could show them all.
Yes. Okay.
Or...
So.
In a screen share button at all?
It's. I can see it. It's not. It's just not working.
Yeah, that sometimes happens. That's definitely it's happened to me.
Okay. Well, this entire chat is now ruined forever.
Right. So
anyway, I said the link. In the chat.
Right. So of the ones that I have, which are the least worst that you can see at the bottom? Should I show the table?
You should share the link that I just posted in the chat. Do as I say.
Okay. Directive, the Kersey dichotomy strikes again. Right then.
Strange, the only one that's not working.
The directive, INFJs.
That's right, I'm the boss now.
Right, so we're looking at Messenger. Now, did you put the link? Okay.
In the chat.
It's in the Google Hangout. It's not in the Facebook group.
Oh, right. Okay, so what does that... Oh, okay, gotcha. I'll open that up. Because if I click on it, I'll open up Firefox with 143 tabs.
Right.
Oh,
boy.
Or I could try and log in and out if that helps.
Well, I've got it on screen. Let me just see what bookmarks are visible. Right. I'll share the screen. This might be a bit of a... Oh.
Ooh.
If my computer overheats, Bradley can take over. Right, okay. Infinite regression.
Oh.
Now can you see it?
I can see into the infinity.
That's the right one. I'm not on the right screen, am I? Because I've got to look at the...
Why is that an option? Is it just for shits and giggles?
Right. Where the Laura's back. That's it. Type descriptions. I clicked on the wrong one. There we go. Separate window.
Okay, so we're going to go to type 4.
Okay. Type 4. So just click. There we go. No, it's not the right one. It's not the right one. There we go. The individualist. Should I make it bigger? Right. 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Okay. Okay. Now Blake was asking about integration and disintegration. So that's what it means. You can see this is type 4, but there's a line going to 2 and a line going to 1. So that's what integration and disintegration means. It means that every type is connected to 2 other types in the Enneagram. So the old idea was that you would grow healthily to one type when you're in a good place, and when you were stressed, you would disintegrate to the other type. So in this case, a type 4 grows to type 1 and stresses to type 2. Yeah. That's not actually true though, because in reality you can grow and stress to both those types. But that's the basics of what that means.
Yeah, and that little nuance there, that little change, that is even in the Enneagram Made Easy. I think have these two been changed by Catherine, like her terminology? Did she say things like growing edge, and then the low side?
She does, but she doesn't mean these. She means something else.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's like 1 is integration and 2 is disintegration.
Yes, but well, not in. That's what was taught originally, but in reality, you can integrate to both and disintegrate to both.
Or in other words, you can go to the good side of 1, the lower side of 1, the upper side of 2, the lower side of 2.
Yeah.
And what we mean by lower side of 2 is, like, say, an unhealthy 2. And by and that we mean healthy for the
So when a 4 goes to the unhealthy side of 2, they become very needy and very melodramatic, very hypochondriac. Like, they're very dependent on others. They're projecting their good feelings onto others and expecting others to take care of them. But when they go to the healthy side of 2, they become more in tune with their positive emotions and more generous and more giving and so on. When they go to the unhealthy side of 1, they become more moralistic, more judgmental, more angry. And when they go to the healthy side of 1, they become more rational, more serene, more devoted to objective truth rather than their subjective feelings, which is what the 4s are about. So that's the basics. Okay, so so the basic fear of the 4 is that they have no personal identity or significance. And their basic desire is to define themselves and gain significance. So they're about their heart type. So they're about the persona, their image. Every type has a persona, but these 2, 3, and 4 are about the persona. And 4's fundamental level, 4s feel like there's something wrong with them, like they're flawed in some way, and they overcompensate by saying, well, that means I'm unique, that means I'm special, that means I'm different, and I need to have that recognized by others. So they like it when people recognize their specialness. I don't know, which they achieve by expressing themselves through art, through music, through poetry, through acting, whatever it is. They're expressing their feelings and they're having their feelings validated.
I'll also say that when I saw the Hangout not the Hangout, it was a video event that looked like it was made in the 1980s, but with Ian McNay, but it was actually made this century, where you had these 4s talking about their creativity. And I got the impression that a lot of it was like they were like stretching their creativity in terms of a definition. And some of them, you almost get the impression, if they're not actually classically creative, they may interpret their taste as an expression of their creativity by what they choose to be into. So their good style becomes their expression of it.
Yeah, and also 4s, even if they all usually be artistic, but they will definitely have artistic interests as well. That's a more important thing. Drew, so what we're talking about is the levels of health. So if you scroll down, Ben, you can get to that.
Thank you. Just gotta go here. Right. Examples, overview. Here we go.
Okay, so basically the older Enneagram books talked about talked about the types and they made them sound all completely insane. The descriptions were awful. Like Myers-Briggs description. If you read about Myers-Briggs types, a lot of the time it sounds very idealized. If you read an older book about Enneagram, it sounds incredibly cruel. Like every single type is messed up. Every type is neurotic and psychotic and so on.
Not just that, the type 6 was called the coward.
Yes,
And Tom Condon said that was hard to wrap your arms around.
Yeah. So what Don Riso, a guy called Don Riso, did, he got with the levels of development instead, showing that actually each type has a good side, an average side, and a bad side. So it's not that we're all messed up; it's that there's a whole range of feelings and developments in us, and that's what this is about. So
one time I read a description of the 4. I think it was from, I forget what book. It was the most scathing description. It was like at their core they are the personification of hatred.
yeah.
And,
That may be a sexual 4 specifically. But.
Yeah,
that was sexual 4. Yeah.
I'll remind the audience.
I wonder how much that relates to levels of health too. Like maybe a less healthy 4 would be more that way.
Yeah.
The story of how that came to be was that Naranjo based it on an ex-girlfriend who threw all his clothes out the window. So a little bit of subjectivity there from him. So
no, but I can kind of understand. Like, I think the Enneagram to me has always seemed so rough, you know, but it really does. There is some really negative qualities, you know, in your you know.
Yeah, but the older books focused entirely on the negative qualities, whereas over time a more balanced portrayal has come out.
I think part of that might have been that because it was used in therapy to identify problems.
Yeah, because Naranjo was a psychiatrist by trade and a student of Gestalt theory, so obviously all of his focus was on helping people get better, which means focusing on the mental illness side.
So I'll just mention, because you said Gestalt, that's also what David Kersey was trained in.
Interesting.
Right. So who's doing that little, drumming on the keyboard thing? Is it, if anyone's typing away, they can go Control D, kill their little drum in there.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
Right, I'll click back on that. So, what should I scroll down, Jonathan, or do you want to
stay here. So, another thing is, a lot of the older Enneagram books talk about how your type is nurture, how it's a result of upbringing. But nowadays, most Enneagram teachers think it's something you're born with. It's a more genetic based. There may be a bit of nurture there, but you are born with your type. That's the current line of thinking. So health level often comes down to the type of childhood you had. Like if you had a less than healthy childhood, you're probably going to be at average to unhealthy levels. Whereas if you had a good childhood or supportive childhood, then you're more likely to be average or healthy. Now this is relative. I would say, is relative to the type. So what a type 4 child needs might be different from what a type 1 child needs, and so on. And so their needs might, whether or not their needs are met, might depend on who's raising them, their experience, and so on. But that's roughly what it's about.
Also, Tom Condon makes the point that people carry around the types of their parents in them. So the influence coming from the perspective of that type.
Yes, you're also influenced by your parents, and that can affect it. Yeah, but this is. So,
Jonathan, could you give an example of that? Like a 4, what would the effect of a particular Enneagram type of a parent be on a 4 child?
Oh, like I can think of one, but it's a bit rude because I know.
I have a type 2 and a type 8 mom and dad.
How do you think that's affected you?
It's been very strange because I've had a loving childhood in some ways, but then some things are not okay for me. And the way my father, the way he tells me how to, they both are to try to fix things. And my mother is very loving until I start showing too much emotion. And my father just kind of like tells me what to do, you know.
Directive.
Yeah.
Do you think you've taken any traits from them?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure I have. But I don't know what.
Yeah, and don't say too much, because if you say too much, you might say, "Oh, Ben, you got to take that video down. I should never have said that." So,
You're right. Yeah. Well, that's okay. I'm like, I share too much always anyway.
Have people done that? Have people told you to take videos down because they've said too much?
No, but I'm heading it off at the pass. You know, a little bit of NI there.
Okay, because I've said some stuff in these videos. Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care.
All right.
I'll get back to this.
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing I'll say before we start is it's divided here between healthy, average, and unhealthy. But average levels, particularly level 5 and 6, they're not actually very healthy either. They're more like very neurotic. I would swap out the term average for neurotic and the term unhealthy for psychotic. Because that's how bad it can be. And a lot of people mistype someone they don't like as unhealthy when they're really just average. Because they're displaying neurotic levels. So
an average 8 might appear quite psychotic, even though they're just average.
Yes, so true. Anyway, so the point of 4s is that they are in touch with their emotions. In particular, they're more in touch with their negative emotions, and they're trying to be emotionally authentic. And often, though, what they really do is they own the emotions that other people disown, but they disown emotions that other people own. So if there's things like playing nice, for example, they might disown that if they don't feel like being nice, even though that's in there. So a healthy 4 is one that owns all of their emotions and their genuine emotions, and they consider why they're feeling this way and how healthy it is and those kind of things, and they get in touch with their genuine creativity, become more inspired. They're very self-aware. They're aware of their own feelings. They're also aware of other people's feelings. They're genuinely personal, genuinely humane, and so on, can be serious and funny. They're vulnerable and emotionally strong, as I'm just reading off this now. But that's the point. It's about healthy 4s are genuinely authentic. Less healthy 4s, as we'll see, if you can scroll down, Ben, less healthy 4s think they're being authentic, but in reality they're becoming more and more about their persona, and they're perhaps becoming more fantastical and maybe a lot more fake, maybe plagiarizing things at times, more sensitive to unimportant things, little things. They're more devoted to fantasy. 2 orders. Yeah. They're more devoted to fantasy, and they can prefer fantasy to reality. And that's because in fantasy they can get more in touch with the emotions that they want to be feeling. And I'd actually say that if their fantasies became reality, they would be dissatisfied with that. So for the 4, the grass is always greener on the other side. If they imagine a better place or a better time or a better world, whatever, and they actually got it, they would be unhappy with that. They would much prefer to fantasize. Whether they realize it or not, they prefer to fantasize than actually realize their fantasies. And they can actually become less healthy 4s, like level 6, can become very elite. Well, even before level 6, they can start becoming quite elitist and start narcissistic and increasingly envious, wanting what others have, what they think others have, and less realistic, more and more making things about themselves. And even if they're seeming to make things about others, like they might get involved in activism, they might support someone else or something, they're really making it about themselves. They're really just projecting their own feelings onto other people and other situations as a way of expressing themselves and trying to make the people they're arguing with out to be whatever the four wants them to be. So if in their mind the person's an enemy or a bad person, then they will treat them like that regardless of whether or not that person is, or if they're a good person, they'll see them as a good person. If they're not, or if they're, they'll put people in these roles. That's what I'm trying to get at. And more and more reality just doesn't matter as much to them. Yeah. And as they get more and more psychotic, they'll get less healthy, obviously. They're completely wrapped up in these very shallow emotional feelings, where particularly shame, but also anger, sadness, all these things, and depression, and more self-abasing, more and more.
We just lost both our 4 and our 6. Sorry, you can keep going though.
There was one thing I remember from.
I was scared off.
There was one thing about one of the bits I saw in the Russo book was it's like the relation towards the self, where the really unhealthy level you've got self-hatred, in the average you've got self-absorption, and in the healthy you've got self-awareness.
Yeah. Yes. And,
Bradley, are you sick, by the way?
Sorry, say that one more time.
You're a 6?
Oh no, I identify as 5.
Oh, okay.
No, Laura, who we just lost, is 6.
Yeah.
So psychotic 4s are really losing themselves in their persona and their fantasies. And like I said, they're on one level they want their fantasies to be real, but on another level, if their fantasies ever became real, they would be disappointed. They would be unsatisfied because the reality can never ever match their fantasies in their head. And the thing to remember is that type 4s, type 1, type 4, and type 7 are part of the idealist triad, that's called. They all have ideals that they want to aspire to. And when these types are less healthy, they become increasingly frustrated, less and less satisfied with reality, because reality is not living up to their dreams. I have a phone call, excuse me.
Okay. So, while Jonathan does that, you could have hung up. Right, so, I'm thinking that I'll ask you, Bradley, because you are number 2 on the Enneagram totem pole. What do you think about the relationship between Enneagram type 4 and melancholy?
Oh, well, okay. We just got a 4 and a 6 back, so.
All right.
Maybe it'd be better if you ask a question to a 4.
Okay, I'll ask.
I'm back.
Blake, what do you? Yeah.
We can hear you.
Wait a minute, Laura. Yeah, we can hear. So, Blake, what do you think about the relationship between 4 and melancholy?
Yeah, I think they're prone to it, and they also like enjoy it, and find like meaning in it. Like I love when like I'll meet somebody and like have a meaningful relationship with somebody that also can like see like moments of melancholy and like art that like inspires like a feeling of melancholy. as being like an important way of interpreting life and of cherishing life too.
What do you mean by cherishing life?
It's like the feeling that everything passes away, and it's like it's like a beautiful feeling that like everybody is in this together, and just the recognition that everything passes away is just so beautiful.
Okay.
So, Sanna, you also identify. I'll just say that Colin Farrell, the actor, I think he said something in an interview about melancholy. Do you think Colin Farrell's a full resembler, Jonathan?
He could be. Oh, he has four. He has four in there, I'd imagine.
So, Sanna, what you heard there from Blake about melancholy and art, do you agree with that, or have a slight difference?
You mean melancholy specifically with art?
Yeah, and with you and your approach towards melancholy and your experience.
I don't think I am very. I can definitely be pessimistic, but I don't think I'm melancholic. My art definitely isn't.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I do go for like very NF art, but
just a bit.
And you're a 4, right?
Yeah, supposedly.
Well, that's maybe a case of what I was saying about 6s not liking the word fear. Well, 4s may or may not always like the word melancholy. They might just not see themselves in that particular way.
How about
social, sexual? I forget the other one. Kind of difference too.
Self-press 4s don't feel melancholy.
They like,
well, they can
as much as the other two.
I'm trying to box things to understand. You know.
Yeah. Do you think that they like the word dark better than melancholic?
Maybe it depends on the 4.
Or deep. They certainly might like the word deep.
Yeah, they'll definitely use the word deep.
I like melancholic better than dark.
All right. One thing I'll say is, Catherine Farver, she harvests the words from people through the Enneagram, the Enneacards test thing. So that's how one of the ways that she gets all these words and analyzes them.
Yeah. So anyway, just to wrap things up, basically the very unhealthy 4s. What they all stress is that levels of health aren't necessarily about good or evil. I'd say the level 9 is not like the epitome of evil. It's more like self-destruction and annihilation. So they'll get level 9 4s will, you'll see like in extreme cases suicide or self-harm and abusing different things.
What's most dangerous to other people?
Sorry?
What's more dangerous to other people in terms of like level 7, level 8?
Yeah, it's probably. Well, it depends what you mean by
people,
it depends on what you mean by danger, but probably like level 5 and 6 they can start to
blaming.
Yeah, they'll start taking things out on other people. Certainly by level 6 and probably level 5 as well. But level 7 or 8 then they can make it violent and so on. And this also depends on your tri-type and stuff as well. Level 9 they're absolutely self-destructive and trying to end it, and probably end it in a very melodramatic fashion as well. Yeah.
It reminds me of like 19th century British novels or something, or
Yes, gothic stuff.
People don't like, you don't hear about this kind of behavior a lot anymore. Maybe, or the 4 isn't represented as much. Yeah, like in literature. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be able.
They're still there. If you know what to look.
You might be able to connect over that then. So yeah, Blake, we did a video about type and novelists. So you might be interested in that. How writers type affects their work.
That was quite old though, so some things I might not always agree with. But yeah.
I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, yeah, Blake has an interest in work out English literature. So while we don't have Laura here.
I can still go to 6.
Yeah, I could duplicate the page,
or you could just go back.
Ah, right, because you've. Is there anything that you want to say after the 9? Because we concentrate on levels. Okay, we might as well go to 6.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. Oh, let's go here. Oh no, compatibility. I've got to go to the top.
No, just go to the arrow. Yeah. Just go to the arrow. It's a website. Remember. Just go to back. Press back.
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot about these things.
INTPs and computers.
Yeah, we're terrible.
Right. So.
You could try. Oh, that's a message. All right. Oh, is she back? Is she back? No, not yet. Anyway, we'll start on the 6, so it's not dead air. I'm being pinged. I am being pinged. Reduced bandwidth. Video uses far more than audio. Yeah, I was just suggesting there that maybe switching the webcam off might help with the signal. So then, we've got the type 6 in brief there, Jonathan. Oh, he's doing a phone call as well. Right then.
I'm guessing people in and out of this. Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Go on, Bradley. Have you got any questions for Blake?
You said you were 413?
I think so, but I wish I was a 4-wing 5, so I don't know.
Yes, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, the theory now is you can take from both wings?
Yeah. So, they say that you have, you're typed in a wing, but you actually have both wings. It's just one of the wings is more dominant over the other wing. So you can have, both 3 and 5 traits, but you just have more 3 traits and 5 traits. So you have a dominant 3 wing.
Also, you can have somebody can have a heavy wing. So maybe their primary wing could be heavy, and their secondary wing could still be quite heavy, but just not as heavy as the first. And then maybe somebody else could have their primary wing is like average, and their secondary wing is like quite low down. So you can have these variances in the degree of identification. And I think we did that in the hangout with Catherine, where she talked about the strength of a wing.
Oh, I guess I have a question for Jonathan. Do you agree that someone can have balanced wings or no wings, as we saw in claim?
Well, I don't know I don't know if Russell's still claims that or not, because he keeps changing his ideas. I suppose in theory it's possible, but usually even then you'd have one slightly leaning one way or the other.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. Well, if you move up this to the top for a second.
Right, up to the top so we can see the arrows. Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Right. So, as you can see, 6 has a line to 3 into 9. As I said, really both of these. 9 is also your stress type, and 3 is also your growth type. these are actually the 3 primary types. So these are the 3 main types that the Enneagram is built around. So when a 6 goes to 3, they're more focused on success and images of success and achievement and getting things done. And that can manifest in a healthy way and being productive and being more independent and assertive. Or it can be less healthy in terms of becoming more narcissistic, becoming fake, trying to fake it to make it, maybe conning people without even realizing at times. When they go to the high side of 9, when they go to healthy 9, they become less anxious. They're more. 9 is about quiet power. 9 is about your own inner strength and your ability to endure. So the 6 can learn to that they can withstand things that they're worried about, that they're anxious about. They can control their fears by realizing that, you know what, I can take it, I can withstand it. But when they go to the less healthy side of 9, the low side of 9, they dissociate and they deaden their emotions, and they start becoming indifferent and not feeling anything. And that's more or less what those lines mean. Yeah. So obviously 6 is the loyalist, it's the questioner, it's the devil's advocate. It's a type that's about anxiety. They have anxiety and they're about anxiety, and they're anxious about nothing in particular. It's just they're out of touch with their gut center, their sense of inner strength, so they're over relying on their head to track consistencies in the environment, to compensate, to figure out, you know, what should they be anxious about, what should they direct their anxiety at, and what isn't worth being afraid of. What is safe, what is not safe, what is reliable, what is not reliable, who is trustworthy, who is not trustworthy. And as they get older, over time, they'll start to see certain things as more reliable to them, more consistent to them, and other things as less. And they'll if they're phobic, they'll gravitate towards the safer stuff. If they're counterphobic, they'll gravitate towards the less safe stuff in order to confront it. Either way, they can become dependent on these security systems and very focused on loyalty, because you want loyalty in a dangerous world. You want people to rely on if you don't think you can rely on yourself. If you have all these anxieties, if you have doubts and uncertainty, it's nice to have certain rocks in your life. You can scroll down. Yeah, and so the basic fear is being without support and guidance, through not having people or security systems, whatever it is, to back them up and to give them something to rely on. So the basic desire is to have security support.
So, Jonathan, whilst we've got Laura here, if you, as soon as you can bring Laura in, I think that would be a good idea.
Well, Laura, how do you write to this description?
Okay, now.
Your voice is sounding really bad time with this. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, Laura, if you, because it might be a bandwidth problem, if you switch your webcam off, then sound uses a lot less bandwidth than with video. So that might help.
Okay. See, what I did was I was hooked onto it from my laptop, and then I tried it on my phone to see if and it seems to laptop and turn off my webcam.
Is it, have you got bad weather outside? Have you got thunderstorms?
I'm going to try it out, okay?
Okay. Right, whilst you do that, so Jonathan, do you want to go take the reins again?
Okay, so yeah, you can move down to the levels.
Okay.
laptop.
All right then, levels, motivations, overview, levels.
Yeah. So the key with sixes is that, as I was saying, they're out of touch with their inner strength, and they have anxiety and they have doubt. And so the healthy side is sixes who are healthy have learned to stand on their own 2 feet. That's the basic key. Like they're able to trust themselves, and in so doing, they're able to trust others. They aren't shoving people away. They aren't out of suspicion, but they are capable of proper trust without becoming dependent, and they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. That's the essence of it. So it's about learning to not be afraid, or be less afraid, or not let your fears control you. The average six is the paranoid style, so the less healthy they get, the more paranoid they become. All types can be paranoid, but take six is the one that's about paranoia. And it's not the stereotype of, it's not necessarily the stereotype of the crazy introverted person who's got all these maps and drawings on the wall. It's a lot more conventional.
You mean like me?
I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, it's not maps and drawings. It's Peter Chef in Austrian school and helping people out. Anyway, I'll go back to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a stereotype of a 5 paranoid.
Not 6?
No, six paranoid tends to be more conventional. If a 6 is paranoid about something, is often about mundane stuff or stuff they've read in the newspaper or from their political party or their friends or family or
But
school systems. So
Jonathan, because Laura is got her webcam off, it will be a little bit harder to see when she wants to come in if she's just using it in sound. So if you want to leave gap, there we go.
How about if I type it into the chat?
We can hear you now. We can hear you well now. So
Okay. But you can't see my face.
no, but we can hear you, and that's the main thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I go back? What should I do, Jonathan? Should I stick to these levels? Should I
Well,
go back to the beginning?
I'll stick to the levels and
Okay.
bring Laura in later.
Right.
And also, it's like what Ben was saying about SJs before the chat. It's conventional to them. So a 6 who's been raised as an anarchist, for example, in an anarchist commune, they're going to have anarchist type fears and safety concerns. Or if they're counterphobic, they might rebel against their childhood, but they'll be somewhat dependent on it because they'll just go to the opposite extreme. So if you got someone who's raised in a very conservative household and they're counterphobic and they rebel against that, then they become extremely liberal or communist or whatever. So that's the key thing with type 6 paranoia. There's usually something normal, and it can manifest in things like walking down the street and thinking people looking at you, or if you're driving your car and someone cuts you off, you might think they did it on purpose. You know, little things like just being suspicious of people's motives, kind of taking for granted that certain behaviour is not just right or wrong, but obviously right or wrong. And therefore, if someone violates it or violates the rules that they assume everyone's agreed on, then they must have they must have some sinister reason for doing so, because everyone agrees that these things just should not be broken.
Now, I saw an Open University program about a guy who was in prison, and he was talking about you have a mentality when you're in prison that whenever anything like that happens, you assume that, it was deliberate. So you get that sort of 6-ish mentality because of the situation being so dangerous.
Yeah.
They can develop that mindset.
Yeah, and 6 is the most...
Prison is a 6 kind of place.
Yeah.
Unhealthy.
Well, Well, lots of types will be in prison regardless of that, but also sixes.
Well, of course, but of course,
Artistic prisoners for fours. Six is the most. It's actually the most common type, and it's also the most varied. So you could say that almost anything. Most places are actually typical six places. So you could say prison. You could also say school. You could say stores, perhaps. You could say politics, your job. All these things will be typical sixes in their own way. This will vary by instincts, of course, and by tri type, and so on. But six is almost the normal for many people. Six is ordinary, even though sixes can seem very wildly different. So the rule. What sixes will do when they're neurotic, when they're less healthy, when the stress starts to get to them, is that they start looking for security systems, which can be family or friends, it can be religion, it can be philosophy, it can be a political party, it could be their job. Whatever it is, they start looking for it and they want to use it as an anchor, use it as a rock, as something reliable and safe in an unsafe world. Now, everyone can have those things, and being devoted to them is fine, but the problem is the six will be using it more and more to compensate for their anxiety and their fear. And that means that if they think it's being threatened in any way, they can become very defensive of it, even if those criticisms are fair or valid, or even if they weren't really criticisms at all, if they're just taking things the wrong way. So they're basically overcompensating for their doubt and their uncertainty with certainty, become more and more reliable on it, more and more reliant on it. And as their stress mounts, as things get worse for them, they become more and more dependent on it, and more dependent on people in their lives to support them and have their back. And they'll have this constant fear that they don't, or that they can't rely on them. And so they might become more and more contradictory. They'll test people. They won't be sure. They'll ask for reassurance. Not necessarily in direct ways. It could be indirect ways, like if they're worried about something and they're reading it in the newspaper, they might just start talking about it and see, how do you react? How does this person feel about this, so I can know where they stand on this issue? That sort of thing. And what you find with level 6 and level 7, they've found that their security systems are just not enough. They're trying very hard to follow the rules according to their security system and do what needs to be done, but it's not working, or they don't feel, or if it is working, they don't recognize it as working. Everything just seems to be falling apart. There's this fear of annihilation, fear of being overwhelmed and destroyed, and so they can even turn against their own security systems and become more reactive and hostile to everyone. Suddenly, everyone and everything is completely untrustworthy. Everything is completely unreliable. Become authoritarian if they're afraid of authority. And another thing is that whether they're phobic or counterphobic, they will start switching between those two. So a counterphobic person will become very phobic. A phobic person will become very counterphobic.
What is counterphobic?
And this counterphobic means you attack what you fear. So if you're phobic 6, or if you're phobic in general, you will try and avoid what you fear. A counterphobic 6 will try and attack it in order to overcome it. So
we could, if we got an example of a couple of 6s. So Vladimir Putin, a counterphobic 6.
He's a pretty. Well, yeah, they're pretty extreme examples, though.
And Adolf Hitler.
I was going to give more mundane examples than
Are they good strategists?
Sixes can be. It depends on the six. A lot of this, in fact, almost everything about the six comes down to it depends, because they're very reactive and adaptive, and they're depending on their security systems, so they're molding themselves to try and fit them if they can.
I think a lot of INTJs can be like 5 wing 6 or 6 wing 5, and that NI, that sort of negative NI, looking for things going wrong. Because it was like contingency planning, so a little bit of overlap there.
Yeah, but also six is one of those types that almost any type can be. It's not like it's a very broad way with it. Yeah, so counterphobic.
Yeah.
Okay, counterphobic could be things like you'll find a lot of counterphobic sixes in sports and extreme sports, doing daredevil stuff. You'll find them in horror communities, like fans of horror films, especially the 4 in the tri-type. You'll find them in emergency services, basically doing dangerous stuff or doing reckless stuff or being attracted to that sort of thing. Or in some cases to extremist politics, whatever. So that's the idea of a counterphobic six. They're attacking what they fear. They're attacking dangerous stuff in order to overcome it. The problem is that this victory is temporary, because sooner or later their anxiety comes back and they have to attack what they fear again. And this is not the same as courage, because courage is facing what you fear, whereas counterphobic is fearing something and then attacking something else to kind of have this illusion of victory.
Right.
Yeah.
So Laura is back. So Jonathan.
So
any way to bring her in, take advantage of this window of opportunity?
Well, I'll just finish off the less healthy six.
Okay.
So the very unhealthy six will be absolutely paranoid and think everything's dangerous, and they might lash out in some terrible act of terrorism or violence or whatever, or self-destruction.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you say for the last couple minutes? Because I got bumped out again, even though I had my webcam off. I don't know what's wrong today, because usually Hangouts are not like this for me. I mean, I may get bumped out maybe once in a great while, but not like every 5-10 minutes or so. And this is just been very frustrating.
I was just going through the levels and talking about counterphobic.
Okay.
So yeah, they're basically very unhealthy sixes. Don't think they can trust anyone or anything. They think they may be the only ones who can see what's really going on. They may try and lash out and destroy things, and even though they're ultimately looking for safety and security, they might think they'll never ever get it, and destruction is imminent. And so they might try and do something reckless or stupid that brings destruction about in order to get it over with, because the only thing worse than being destroyed is living in constant fear of being destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing with sixes is even just in the normal range, there's a tendency to alcohol or drug abuse or so that a lot of, not obviously not all sixes, but many sixes are a bit prone to drinking, and that's because it's just a good way of soothing their anxieties.
Yeah.
So that's just a little bit of trivia there. So,
would they also maybe smoke as well to calm their nerves, or just
some,
kind
yes,
of substance abuse associated with that?
They could be that, yeah. But also at the same time, you brought up Hitler, and Hitler was straight edge, so he didn't smoke, he didn't drink. He did do drugs like mad, but that was only near the end.
But it wasn't sober compared to Goering, though. I mean, it was out there with
Goring was
sweets.
Goring was actually kind of a different case. He wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. But that's a different. We're not talking about Nazis. We're talking about Type 6.
Actually, what he did, I'm just going to tell you what he did was his brother Albert Goering helped a lot of Nazis escape from the.
No, a lot of Jews.
Helped a lot of Jews escape from the Nazis, and the Gestapo would chase up on Albert, and then Goering came in and said, "I'll decide who is and is not a Jew." So he helped his brother out.
Yes. Anyway, away from the Nazis, back to Enneagram 6. So, Laura, do you have any questions or anything you want to add?
I'll go back to the players.
Well, I don't really do the smoking or drinking thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a strong sense of self-preservation because I know,
Yeah.
and I would be largely because I don't know what's going to happen. You know, like I've never been drunk. And it's because I fear the effects that would happen to me. I feel like I would do something totally stupid that would be beyond my control, and then I'd be really embarrassed for it later. I get a massive hangover, and I'd feel really sick, and it's just not worth it for me.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I don't drink either.
So Laura,
we're both very boring people.
I know, I'm a boring person. I'm definitely a boring person.
So Laura, this basic fear of being without support or guidance, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I definitely relate to that.
Can you elaborate? Or
Well, I mean, like I worry about growing old, for example, and like not having your parents anymore, because you know they're a big source of support and guidance, or like yeah, when you grow old and you don't have many friends or connections, and you're just kind of left to rot and die, and people don't care. Or sometimes when you feel like nobody's aligned with you, everybody's against you, and no one's on your side. I mean, like everybody disagrees with you, and you know, and
yeah,
that's not a pleasant feeling. It's
wow. Sorry, there's a thunderstorm now.
Yeah,
There's thunder at my window, so distracted.
I'm trying to see if I can come up with more examples.
Like it can be very lonely.
Or do you think it can be lonely? It's a big thing.
Do I think what?
Blake's asking if you think it can be lonely.
Loneliness.
Loneliness.
Loneliness?
Yeah. Is that what you're feeling, or is it something else?
I don't really feel lonely that often. I think it's more that I feel like, let's say I had a serious problem and no one came to my rescue, or no one cared.
Yeah.
That's what I fear more. But I hardly ever feel lonely. I mean,
yeah,
at least not in this point in my life.
Yeah. See, one thing with sixes is sixes need people, and sixes like to be around people where they can, or even if they're introverts and being lonely, they'll have people in the vicinity that they can depend upon.
They have boundaries, like healthy boundaries, but maybe too much sometimes.
Well, that depends on the health level of the six, the boundaries, and also instinct as well. Because if you're a sexual six, for example, you will be aware of boundaries, but you'll also try and transcend them for your favorite people, for the people you want. Yeah. With the six, it's more about projecting your power onto others, projecting it onto authority or to other groups, and it's almost a kind of a childish thing, like regressing to almost a child state of wanting others to take care of you and support you. The less healthy they get, the more and more childish the six becomes, the more unrealistic they become. And you can see that not just with their parents, but you can see that in the relationship in politics or anything like that, where it's always someone else's fault. It's you always have to be on someone's side, or they're always on an absolute enemy. So this attitude to authority can be good or bad depending on what you expect from a particular authority. But the point is that the healthy six can stand on their own without authority. So when the six is less healthy, they're more dependent on authority, and therefore they're hostile to authorities that they don't trust or don't like, because damn it, you should be on my side. You should be trying to make things fair and just, And if you're not, what are you doing here? Why are you involved? Get out. Give me something more reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's more what the 6 is about.
So these are the core dynamics. So as Jonathan was saying, so we've got here B terms and A terms. B's are the behaviors, A's are the attitudes. And so we can go here. And so the idea here is that the basic fear will lead to this basic desire. And then sometimes that can lead to a secondary fear. So it sort of spirals down and down, where a fear then leads to a desire. And sometimes it's the desire that's not connected with the basic desire. And then out of these things, then it can then a sort of fear that from that, you get this spiraling down. Now, perhaps it would have been easier if they'd have done it to sort of show how people can improve rather than show how people disintegrate. It's a little bit more positive there.
They have that in another book.
Ah!
Yeah. Also, this book was written in 1896, so they've kind of changed their things. I mean, the actual author, Don Rousseau, passed away a few years ago, but the co-author, Russ Hudson, he's still around and he's still developing ideas. What I'll say is the 60s tend to overthink things, and the less they get, the more and more they overthink things, the more convoluted their thinking gets.
Mm-hmm.
So allaying their fears or trying to allay their fears can be very tricky, because the thing they're originally afraid of, they might forget about because they start thinking about what else they're afraid of, what else, and they're going down this rabbit hole of all kinds of fears. And so what they say they're afraid of may not be what started it off in the first place.
So it says on the fears, are those related to the levels of health, like the basic fears? So the fears change related to the level of health. Like the most healthy fear is of being able to survive on their own and having no support. That's the most healthy fear.
Well, it's the most basic fear. It's not the most healthy, but
like I said, these secondary ones, they're in addition to the basic fear.
Yeah, they stem from the basic fear. It's like it's like almost like a weed. It's like it grows out of control. So they're all just more extreme examples of this basic fear of being able to survive on their own.
There's in order to explain this, they gave the example of the two. The meaning, so you got the meaning of the levels of development there. So like I said, level of liberation. So it's almost like they had an interest in Buddhism, and each level and the top level was always being liberated from your
ego.
Desire, which was your ego. It's like too much of a drive for knowledge, too much of a drive for fun, too much of a drive for power, too much of a drive for harmony, too much of a drive for all of these things where it becomes too much of a fixation. And is sort of an example of that is in the Robert McKee calls it the redemption plot, which was an ironic story form started in the 1970s that won a lot of Oscars, where it's a sort of an ironic comment on previous storylines, previous story structures, where the person succeeded by achieving their goal. In the redemption plot, they win by realizing that their goal is becoming a soul-corrupting fixation. And so they win by losing, by giving up the quest. And this is frequently shown in the desire of the protagonist to achieve success. So it was a comment on contemporary American society being too E3-ish. And so they learn it's really ruining their personal relationships through this desire for success and maybe betraying people. They give that up, they give the money up, and they go for like the community. And you see this a little bit maybe in the film Witness with the Harrison Ford character and other ones, and with Tom Cruise's character in Rain Man. There's lots of these. And then the opposite is related one is called the Punitive Plot, where somebody achieves their goal, but it becomes they're corrupted. So it's a little bit like, in Star Wars terms, the Emperor, and he achieving his end, but it's corrupted him. Although it's probably already corrupted at the beginning, but it's a little bit like going towards the dark side.
And, I saw in the individuals, for example, who are 6, Jiddu Krishnamurti, the spiritual leader, is a 6. So I can see like the potential for a 6, like in overcoming all of this anxiety. They become super spiritual. They can become. That's a path they could go on because it gives you so much wisdom about life, about anxiety, which everybody experiences.
So we've got a little bit of theory here about level 1. They become incorporating healthy qualities from the type in the direction of integration. And also through the levels, their theory of it is a little bit INTP'd up, even though that might not be their type, but I can appreciate it as one who resembles that type. That at the lower levels, you start to show traits towards the unhealthy side of the other ones. And this is where it might be a little bit need to be changed up, because you can go to the positive and negative side of both types that you're connected to. So maybe in future I could persuade Jonathan to come up with his own levels.
Uh-huh.
So you got level of psychological capacity. So Jonathan, do you agree that level 1 should be level of liberation?
I just don't like these terms at all. I like to get a bit more vague in my mind. So
okay, more room. Tom Condon would say maybe wear your style more loosely.
Sure.
So you got level of psychological capacity, level of social value. All right, you've got here. They overcome their basic fear. But it's still there.
What book is this?
This is
Personality Types by Reese Wynn Hudson. Yeah, so it was written in the 90s. So it's a bit out of date, but it's it is out of date, but it's actually also the most in-depth of each of the type descriptions, or one of the most in-depth. So it has its flaws, but it's still useful.
Oh, so we've got some things here for the 4. I forgot that I've written this in. Right, so some of the things I've written for the 4, I've got there. E4 basic desire to find themselves and their significance, to create an identity out of their inner experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got here the basic fear that they have no identity or personal gratitude or personal significance, rather.
What they'll say is that Catherine Favre, she prefers not to think in terms of health levels, but rather the high side and the low side.
Yeah,
and that's partly because even if you're healthy or normal, you can, depending on your mood, depending on what you went through that day, you can go to the low side or the high side. Like if you're if you're having a bad day, you might go down low, you might show the bad side of yourself. If you're having a good day, you could be swell. So
they actually have that in the Wisdom of the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Which is a less, still kind of dated, but a lot less dated than personality types. They do have that. They make that distinction to say that you can go through the various levels in one day.
So what they actually describe levels 3 different times, each time at a different level of complexity. So this is the middle explanation, and then core dynamics is their most elaborate explanation of it.
So basically, you can visit your unhealthy types if you're just having a bad day or going through a bad patch in your life. But if you're at it if you're at an unhealthy side of your level of your type for a very long period of time, then you're basically in the realm of a personality disorder, and you need some serious therapeutic help.
So what about this bit here? Those using Enneagram for their own self-discovery will be able to better comprehend the states they find themselves in, as well as the obstacles to their growth, using these levels.
Yeah, it can be helpful.
Or they can do what you do and just read a load of books and become an Enneagram expert. That might take a while, though.
It takes mental effort to grasp all the nuances.
Yeah. Yes, it took me a while. Just to do. Yeah, thank you. Right, so self-promotion of the other book. Right, and oh yes, that's the example of how it works. And then B terms, A terms, basic fear. Ah, that's interesting. The type is trying to solve, or at least repress.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's a good way of looking at it, Jonathan? Or at least a positive spin?
Yes, interesting.
Or maybe that's more, maybe do you think the more head types might try and do that? Or certain types might want to try to solve their weakness more than others?
I do that too.
How do you do it, Blake? What attempts do you use to try and solve it?
I use different like spiritual or like ways of thinking. Like I'll experiment with different ways of thinking to try to solve like the way I like my mental model about life. That's what I've done the past couple of years. I don't know how I used to do it.
Sanna, do you have an approach to try to solve your E4 basic desire?
Well, it's not something something I currently struggle with. I used to.
Right.
But so when it comes to identity,
yeah.
I got that. Over the years, I just kind of slowly worked through it.
I've missed the elephant in the room. Well, we solved it by getting into typology and trying to analyze ourselves.
Now, this was way before typology.
Right.
Although typology was at the very end, and it was like, oh my God, I'm not completely flawed.
So we've got this bit here on basic desire. The basic desire is the central motivation for the type. It is the way that the type tries to manage its basic fear. Is that seems directly related to it. So is that still relevant, Jonathan? That really the basic desire?
Yeah, I'd say that's still relevant. What I was going.
Sorry.
No, you first.
I was going to say I do have that desire, but I no longer go about it the same way that I used to. I used to be really afraid of rejection.
Okay. What I was going to say is that the less healthy someone gets, the more afraid they can be of their growth types and their lines. So they become untrustworthy of it. So if you're a type 1 and you're less healthy, then you become afraid of type 7 and 4, and you start seeing them as bad and something to avoid because you're afraid of being corrupted, and those seem very corrupting. If you're a type 6, you might be afraid of 3 and 9 because those seem very dangerous and those seem very untrustworthy, and they also seem like you're betraying the people you're putting your trust in.
Yeah, see, yeah, Jonathan, I don't know if I relate to that. I don't think I've ever really felt afraid of 3 or 9. I mean,
well,
I do see connections to both types.
Yeah.
But
well, how bad? How unhealthy?
I'm afraid of them. I mean, can you maybe give an example?
Well, how unhealthy have you ever been?
How unhealthy? You mean like the lowest level I've gone to?
Yes.
Oh, on this chart?
Well, not necessarily in this chart, but in a rough sense. Because I'm thinking about how if you're type 6 and you're very afraid, but you also think that your fears are valid and they're very real, and they need to be addressed, and you put pressure on people to deal with this and pay attention and notice it, then you might not want to go to the healthy side of 9, which is to endure and make peace with it and think, you know what, is not a problem. It's not an issue. So that can seem like ignoring the problem.
Yeah.
It can seem like letting people down as well if it doesn't just affect you, it affects them. You can let down your allies and so on.
Okay, I guess maybe that part of it I can see, maybe I avoid taking advantage of the secure side of 9, kind of like, well, I can't just not worry about it. I have to worry about it, and 9s are not doing anything about it. But then at the same time, I kind of speak that 9ish sense of everything is going to be okay, and that security side of 9. So I relate to both. I guess you can say I relate to both sides of the 9, but sometimes I avoid embracing the positive side of 9.
Huh.
So just as a way, so we've got here that the bits in italics are the sort of like the qualities of disintegration. Now, because of there would be an update now where if these were redone, those bits in italics wouldn't just be the qualities from the type that you disintegrate to. It would be, say, the qualities from both of the types that you got a lines of connection to. So if these were redone, and I think these can be redone with the Campbell levels, and we can try and do those in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Is crowning achievement.
Are you going to commission me to write this book? Because
you have time to kind of briefly cover the Campbell levels, or is that going to take time, or is that a whole separate hangout?
Now it's a thing. Now Campbell levels are a thing. Congratulations, Jonathan.
I think I'm going to write this book. You're going to have to, raise funds and give me money to have time to do this.
You could have a Kickstarter?
Yeah. Well,
I need to find someone who's better.
And then we could buy your book.
Yeah. But, I need the money to write the book and first so I can quit my job, focus on it. Yeah. So we need to find an ENTJ who's willing to invest in me. So you know what? I believe in you.
Jonathan, I've actually, when this hangout is over, I have a suggestion for you about a typology book that's out there that is requesting to be edited.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, we're on air at the moment. When we're off air, I'll let you know. It's a big one.
Okay. Well, the thing is, I'm actually getting a bit tired right now, so if there's any questions people have, doing now because I'm kind of
okay. Open to Blake and Laura, especially for questions about 4 and 6,
or anyone really.
Well, you said something about 6s, so like being afraid of the 9 and the 3. So like, what would an example of like the 6's attitude towards the 3? I mean the 3 is the disintegration point of the 6.
Well, what we're saying is that it is disintegration, but it could also be integration. So
it's kind of both.
Yeah, they're both. Both things are kind of both.
Okay, yeah, because I can see, because sometimes I do go to the positive side of 3 where I'm more proactive and more productive, but then I go to the negative side where I feel like I gotta put on an image to be accepted by people, or I compare myself to others too much.
Mm-hmm.
But how does it relate to being afraid of the 3?
Well, again, this is like, are you afraid of being a narcissist? Are you afraid of being totally fake and unreliable and trustworthy?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
That makes sense. Okay. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Turn my mic off for a sec.
Right. So, Blake, did you have a question?
Yeah. So, I have a sister who's a type 1, and so the whole theory that we'll be more afraid of people who kind of represent those stress and security.
No. I wasn't saying just people. It's all about going to it yourself. So a type 1 might be afraid of going to 7 or going to 4.
Oh,
themselves.
so it's not people.
That's a, well, it can be people. They can be afraid of people, but they're. I was talking about the less healthy you get, the more afraid you are of your lines.
Okay.
Or even though you might be indulging.
What is there a theory about, like an attraction to individuals who are, like, for instance, my sister's a 1 and I'm a 4. For me, my area of growth is 1. So do you think that I will go toward her more like a 1, and then for her area of growth is her area of stress is a 4? So
No, that's what we're saying. It's not really like that. It's like,
okay,
her area of growth is 7, but it's also 4. Her area of stress is 4, but it's also 7. And so for you, if you're a 4, then your area of growth is 1, but it can also be 2. And your area of stress is, 1, and can also be 2, and also be 1. Yeah. So as far as
this book on screen, written in 1994, and it both says that you can go to both sides of it, but I think it says that I think this was a little bit in between what it was then and what it is now. I think it's where it would say the 4 primarily integrates to 1, but it can also go to the lower side of 1, and primarily disintegrates to 2, but can also go to the positive side of 2.
I think there's a theory that if you're getting married, that there does seem to be a trend of people marrying into their lines of connection. You can marry any type, so it's not straight all the time, but there does seem to be a pattern of things like a lot of 1s are married to 7s, and a lot of 6s are married to 9s, and so on.
So, but it doesn't matter, like, the stress growth, like, for each person.
Well, that's the growing part.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm saying if a 1 is marrying a 7, then you could say the 1 is growing to 7, but the 7 stress point is the 1, but the 7's still getting something out of that. The 7's liking the fact that this person is committed. This person is is not something I need to just drop. It's like they're still going to be there. So,
Jonathan, have you read this book?
No, I have not.
Oh, an Enneagram book he has not read. Wow.
Or maybe I have. I don't know.
Have you read it, Bradley? So again,
I've read similar books on relationships.
Maybe it's Essex Blind Spots.
Yes.
So yeah, some of those issues that Jonathan brought up. The first one was the Enneagram Made Easy, and I think you've read that, Laura.
I've read that one.
And then that's the sequel. Came out a year later.
So that's about relationships between, like how a 1 gets on with a 7 and how 1 goes on with 5. Or yeah. So okay, but obviously you'll have to interact with every type or any type that you come across. So that will vary. And there's other things that matter. That can be for another hangout. Relationships.
Yeah, such as Jungian type, because we don't always have the same.
Yeah. And also
Jungian type.
Also tri-type. Tri-type is important with relationships, like in long-term relationships. Like if you don't have anything in common with your tri-type, you're probably not going to succeed, or you'll have more problems. But
because there'll be less connection there.
Yes. So yes. So
any research, Jonathan, there on, say, people of the same Enneagram type in relationships? Do they?
There is. I'm sure that book you just showed has something on it, and there's other books that have something on it.
Right. Okay. See, if I were a 5, I would have read it. Not read it yet.
Do you like dating people who are your type usually?
Who are you talking to?
Anybody, yeah.
Okay, I am not a dating person, so I wouldn't know.
What did you say?
I am not a dating person, so I wouldn't know.
Okay.
That's a sore spot for me.
Do you like being friends with your type?
I don't know many ones, so I don't know.
Mm.
I assume we've gone fine.
Maybe you could have that thing like, no true Scotsman, and it's like, well, you're not, no true one would do that.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Well,
So what if it's both? No true Scottish E1 would do that.
Anyway, anything else? Because
So Laura, have you got any Blake? So any more questions for Jonathan, the Enneagram man?
I guess like maybe a effect of wings, like on how these levels manifest, like a 6-wing 5 versus a 6-wing 7.
yeah, it become. I think you basically your wings go down with you. So if you're a 6 at level 5, then you'll be a 6-wing 7 at level 5. So your 7-wing will be also at level 5. So obviously, a 6-wing 7 would be more extroverted, more hysterical, more obviously anxious, whereas 6-wing 5 will be more
I was wondering,
introverted. So.
like when you're going down the levels, like if you're a 6-wing 5, for example, would you kind of see this effect happening to the 5-wing as well? Like
Yes.
yourself also
Yes.
disintegrating in
Yes, you
5.
do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
this book personality types goes into that as well.
Okay.
But, in a more general sense, but yeah, basically that's the case. So yeah, I have to be going. So
Okay.
that's
So
Well, thank you very much for your time.
you're very welcome.
Bye, Jonathan. Thank you.
right. I think what we'll do is we'll stop it now, but it doesn't mean everything disappears. We can chat off air. So bye-bye, viewers.
Bye-bye.